So you decided you want to apply to go to Egypt, of course, because it's a cool place to go to. Firstly, you need to talk to the respective director. That's the first step. As was said before, there are problems in Egypt at the moment, and it's unclear whether things are going to go ahead. So, discuss it with them, and then read the application guidelines. We actually have some of the application forms here, but you need to really read the guidelines. As with anything academic, read the application and guidelines specifically. So if they say to you, what skills have you got, in your application, make skills as a heading. So you read the application, read the guidelines, and fill out the application form, and you staple it all together with a resume, and then you have an interview. The interview is not really, by this stage they've really sussed out whether you're good or bad, and the interview is really just to make sure you're not crazy. So, I don't know, it didn't work for me. Step 4, basically the 3 academics sit with you, so Jan, Tristan, Naguib Kanawati and Boya Okinga will sit with you in a room and discuss, why you want to go. So that's Egypt, and then you'll find out whether you can go or not.
Great. So, Near East and Mediterranean options. We've already discussed Dr. Tavilia's new dig, so that pretty much the application process is just contacting her and registering your interest. But if you have found a dig that you want to go to, step 1, well, obviously you've decided where to apply and you've researched your dig. Step 2, talk to Ken Sheedy or Steve Llewellyn. They'll just give you some direction, tips on how to apply, how to make your application stand out. Step 3 is then contact the desired project to fulfil their application requirements. This might be an online form, you'll have to provide all sorts of documentation. So just be aware of the length of the process before you decide you want to go. And also, step 4 is to complete the requirements of the actual unit. So there is a form I'll just pass around just to have a look at. The other form going around is the Egypt one, so just have a look. They're not up to date, they're just examples of what is in store. So pretty much this last step is just to make sure that the dig that you've chosen to go on corresponds to the requirements of the unit. Okay, well.
Cool. So what goes into your application? As I said, there's an application form, which is just an A4 form. Obviously, this is not the most important part. The most important part is a cover letter, why I want to go to Egypt, and what I'm going to bring to it. And you attach your resume and academic transcript to this. We'll talk later about how you can bulk out your application and make it more robust. But of course, you need to include things like references and any indications of other skills you may have. For references, feel free to use anybody who's been involved with you at the university, so tutors or lecturers. I tutored last year, and I was a referee for some people, and I was happy to do that. And of course, ask anybody who may have employed you. But we'll talk more about bulking out your application a bit later.
Okay, and for your Near East and Mediterranean options, there's 2 big things to keep in mind when putting together your application. The first is to remember that you're competing against students, preferred students from the home university. So if you're applying for another university's dig, they're going to be looking at their own students first. The second thing is to remember that obviously you're not actually meeting your director until you get chosen and get to go. So you have to put as much as yourself into your application as possible. So consider these things when putting together your application. It's important to show that you have archaeology experience, so do as many archaeology units as you can. You need an extra strong academic record to show that you are better than all of your students. Your cover letter, really make it, really put into your cover letter all the enthusiasm and drive that you have to go on this dig, to really make yourself stand out. And again, academic references, talk to your lecturer, your tutors, like with the Egypt option, and they would be happy to help you out. And also, at least 1 extra skill, which we will talk about now.
Going along the same line about making your resume more robust, filling it out, getting it looking really good, you're going to need to do a few things. This archaeological drawing course is being run very shortly. It's, I believe it's $175 per head, and it's recommended to take. One of the things when you go on an art dig is if you can draw, and you can draw well, you will have an advantage over probably 80% of the other people who are on the dig. Archaeological drawing is really sought after skill, very sought after. There's also an epigraphy course that's run. We're not too sure at the moment that's going to be running it, so if you want to know about that one, you need to fling her an email. Also, go and ask any museum, whether it be the local one, the one here, the Modern Museum, or the Museum of Ancient Cultures upstairs. Go and get hands-on in a museum. Get some experience handling artefacts. There's not going to be anything worse than being on a dig and somebody giving you a beautiful big amphora and you going, oh, it's fantastic, and you're grabbing it by the handle and the handle snaps off and smashes on the ground and it was inscribed and everything. So the more practice you get by handling artefacts and knowing the correct procedure about what you need to do with them, the better off you're going to be when you get on site as well. Prior excavation experience. There are some companies in Australia who you can see who offer volunteer programs. I know that there's a couple that do digs around Town Hall and around the rocks areas, and it's highly recommended if you can get in contact with them that you do so and see if you can.
I think it's the New South Wales Conservation Society is the one.
Yes, and also Casey and somebody and Higgins and Bottom or something. It's very exciting. It's easy to remember because Higginbottom is just kind of like something hearing in a bad English comedy. So here we go. Higginbotham, Casey and Lowe, these are the guys here in Australia if you want to do something here, plus also the other one. Near Eastern Archaeological Fund, University of Sydney, and fieldwork opportunities generally around the world, which is archaeological.org. Archaeological.org is a website of the Archaeological Institute of America and lists current fieldwork activities taking place around the world. It can be expensive, but it all comes down to getting out there and getting experience. Is that the one that you went through?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how did you find them aside from being expensive?
It's really good because they've got, like, on their homepage they've got a map and they've got little pinpoints for, like, every dig anywhere in the world, so they've got stuff pretty much everywhere. So even if you're not, I guess, interested in, like, either of these two, like, kind of strands of history, they've got stuff anyway, like, they have sites running in, like, Iceland that you can apply for and stuff, so that's pretty exciting.
The Australian Archaeological Association lists 2 archaeological companies throughout Australia that take on volunteers. That's Casey and Lowe and Edward Higginbotham and Associates. And lastly, the Near Eastern Archaeological Fund of Sydney University gives the general public opportunities to assist with their overseas archaeological projects. Moving right along. Yep. Okay. Also, don't despair. It's not personal. It's not because your hair's too long, your hair's too short, you wear the wrong shoes, your big nose is too big, or you've got smelly armpits. It's got nothing to do with it. It's got to do with the fact that they just chose somebody else over you. You'll never know, you can't beat yourself up about it, but the key is to keep applying. You have to be persistent. The more persistent you are, the more chance that they will eventually take you. You know, I mean, look, if you put an application in 2 or 3 years in a row, the third year they're going to go, she has an excellent, or he has an excellent application, she's really persistent, you know, that goes for a lot. Keep applying, yeah, determination, and yes, it's not personal. Also, a good point was made that in Egypt, if you're applying for Egyptian gigs, that it may come down to, and it's not a discrimination thing, it may come down to that they need to pick males or they need to pick females because they share rooms over there. So if they're doing, you know, you may get overlooked because they needed an extra guy to fill a spot in a bed in a room because they had one less guy. So it's not a sexual discrimination thing, and in Egypt's case it can be just down to room sharing. So yes. And males and females sharing a room in Egypt is a no-no.
Unless they're married.
Yes.